right, everybody, we are back again for another episode of the Coach's Compass. Now, remember, I don't know what episode it is. I just continue to record, continue to bring on cool guests from all across the world. Now, remember, hit that like, subscribe, comment button down below so we continue to have this thing grow, continue to bring on cool guests from all around the world. I've got another special guest with me here today. I've got Coach Cameron Dietz, right? He's an assistant director of sports performance at the University of Cincinnati. He's helping build stronger, faster, and more explosive athletes, and also on the other side, helping coaches do the same. Coach, thank you and welcome to the Coach's Compass.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Man, so when did you realize that coaching was more than just a job and it was your calling?
You know, I always wanted to be close to athletics because I learned really early on that though I loved playing baseball, I was never going to get paid to play baseball. So for me, it was just trying to figure out what could I do that was close to like in and stay in the game. And so it really boiled down to like I love to write. So it was either sports journalism or what I found is that I also really like to pick things up and put them back down. So I kind of fell in love with that. And then from there, honestly, it kind of, I've done some internships and I've had some experiences where I learned a lot, but I learned a lot more about the type of coach I didn't want to be. And then from there was able to kind of figure out the type of coach that I wanted to be and the type of mentor and example that I could set for younger athletes. And that's just kept continuing to grow. So I would say that I really kind of figured out that like this is what I want to do and this is what I love. Man, it's been at least 10 years, I think. I really like it. I really love it. And, like they say, like when you love your job, you never work a day in your life. So I keep showing up. So if they'll pay me, I'll keep staying. So.
Here you are, you're still here 10 years later. How hard was it, though, at the beginning to kind of, I know you said you kind of knew, like, hey, baseball is not going to last for forever and it's not going to earn me any money, but how hard was it to kind of let go of that athletic side of yourself and be like, I'm no longer an athlete, now I'm coaching full time?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty quick for me because I wasn't very good. Uh, I think the better you are, the more you struggle, right? So if you're really talented, I think it's hard to let it go. And like you said, eventually, and I don't care what sport it is, eventually someone is going to tell you that you're not good enough to play anymore.
That's for sure.
And hopefully you're Justin Verlander and you're still getting paid tons of money to go out there and do your damnedest. But at the end of the day, I knew that it was going to be hopefully something that opened up some doors for me and something that I really enjoyed. I actually thought I was going to be, I had a coach growing up in high school that I thought was so he was our coach, he was our pitching coach, and he played travel ball, like old man, like adult league baseball. And he would throw his BP, and I'm not telling you, like he was wicked with it, and had a 7 pitch mix, man. He could really get up there and spin it. So I always actually thought I was going to do that, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll play slow pitch or, I got into golf a little bit. So I think the biggest thing is, and the thing that I like and look for in young coaches too, is just like competitiveness. And like, I want you, like, I'm competitive. I've had to jump in and play a little bit of med ball volleyball here this summer. And like, it kills me if we lose a point. So like I don't think that leaves you though. It shouldn't. And when I have young interns and when I have, young coaches and stuff, like I think competitiveness and it drives intent within the weight room and field sessions and whatever we're doing. So yeah, and it should drive you as a coach. Like I hate to lose, love to win, hate to lose, all that. Like, I don't know how big of a direct effect I have on wins and losses, but winning games is a hell of a lot more fun than losing them. So I don't know if that totally leaves you ever.
I don't think it ever should, right? Because why would you want it to? Because that's breeding excellence, right? And that's what you want to trying to push into your athletes too, right? Because there are some people that don't have this competitive edge when you get into the what we call the real world, right? And then when they work in the everyday job. So I think that's what led you into kind of being in the coaching side of things, because out there is a little bit uglier. What are the parts of coaching though that no one told you about, right? Like if you look at your coach that are kind of throwing BP to you and like you're looking at him and like, hey, I want to do what he's doing, but now you're in a strength and conditioning side. What parts did nobody warn you about?
It's funny because when I chose this over journalism, the fear was that with journalism I wouldn't be able to make very much money. I always wanted to be a talking head on ESPN. and write for ESPN and whatever. And oh, it's really hard. You don't make a lot as a journalist, especially in sports journalism. You got to be really good. And and the exact same thing is true for this. You do not make a lot of money early on,
Nope.
and it is really competitive. So I essentially chose maybe the two hardest things that you can do, I guess. I might be better off selling cars, honestly, but no, I think that sometimes you see some things on social media in terms of like you're a undergrad kid or even in high school. You love sports, you like to lift, you're figuring that out, and then you look at like some strength coaches and you look at their Instagrams and you're like, man, like it must be so cool to work with these athletes and you get to hang out with them and you travel with them on the road and you're at every game and like yeah, the glamour on the lights and like yeah, there's perks to this, but I mean you gotta dig through a pile of shit before you can find gold, and and I don't know if you ever really know if you make it. I mean, obviously, there's some football guys out there that are making tons and tons of money, and there's basketball's pretty well paid. Baseball's starting to get there as well in terms of collegiate strength and conditioning. And I don't know, what is that number, right? Like, how much is enough? I think that's different on everybody for everybody. But I think that I didn't know that it was going to be as competitive as it is, and I didn't really realize how hard it is to make it, but also the pay will come if you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah. With that, I mean, there's been a lot of talks about that from a lot of strength and conditioning coaches about how the internships are handled and even the GA spots. Because if we talk about when you first start off, the entry level, like it's nothing. Most of the time, you're making nothing, or you're making enough to scrape the barrel. Do you believe that that should change, or is that the kind of rite of passage and kind of seeing if you truly love it? Like, is that something that needs to be figured out?
I think it's easy for us, and I'm gonna say old heads. I'm 32, so like I feel old, but relative, I'm not. Um, Us old heads, I think we'd like to say like hell, we did it. You got to too, and whatever. I think in a perfect world, if somebody could snap their fingers and every single support staff person, athletic training included, could make 20% more overnight, I think that it would be well deserved. And I think that it would be awesome. 20% of zero is still zero. But, I think that it'd be great to be able to pay all interns. And I think that grad assistants, and I didn't make anything when I interned at Delaware and North Texas. Um, I as a grad assistant made essentially enough to, like you said, scrape by. Like I could pay my bills and then obviously school was paid for. Um, I mean, my first job, I'll be really transparent. I made $24,000 a year in my first job. And then I got a raise after that first semester to 30. And then after that for a year made 36. And then after that made 40. And then after that made 44, and now I won't go into details, but if you want to look them up you can, but I make more than that by a bit, but it was 5-6 years of making less than 50K. And so, you have to have support. I had support when I was interning and when I was a grad assistant. I'm not gonna say my parents paid for everything, but like I definitely had a support system, and that's obviously helpful. My advice always to younger coaches is going to be, if you're going to go and find an internship, the way the industry is now, like we're going to admit, I'd love to change it, but until it does change, the best thing you can do is, yeah, go find a great internship, but look for places that you can, go and crash on somebody's couch, or you have friends or family or something that you can make that a realistic thing. Because the last thing that we should be doing as young adults is putting ourselves into massive amounts of debt just to go and live in North Carolina to go intern at one particular university. And if you have family there, great, but like make sure that don't set yourself too far back to get that experience.
Shout out to your support system, right? Because
Right.
otherwise, we don't know where we'd be at nowadays.
Right.
And that's a hard one to deal with, because you look at nowadays and you're in the college scene and you're seeing, these NIL deals, a transfer portal, all these athletes because now the athletes are really being taken care of, but the support system around them, what about them being taken care of? So how do you handle, the pressures of pouring so much into your athletes and then managing it for yourself, not being burnt out in your personal life and your mental health?
I think that it's really important to have a hobby, hobbies, something to live for, and remembering and reminding yourself of your why. I mean, you hit it on the head. There are so many challenges and obstacles and things within this career, and not strength and conditioning, in athletics. I mean, throughout like, I could go upstairs and talk to people in marketing. I can talk to, SIDs and sports information directors. I can talk to sports medicine, athletics in general, right? Unless you're a higher level, higher paid sport coach, maybe head strength coaches at and with certain sports at certain levels. Like, yeah, I mean, people are like, it's tough. I would say that, you know, for the most part, if you want to do something like this in athletics, make sure that you're in it for the right reasons. I'm in it because I think that the impact that I have on my athletes and young people is significant enough to make up that gap in pay to a certain point. I'll be the first one to say, like, even on my interview here at UC, I was pretty transparent with, like, I'm getting to a point where I got to look at maybe doing something else if I'm not going to be able to break through this kind of barrier that is, like, I think a lot of people get stuck at that like 40K range in this field in strength and conditioning, even in athletic training. I think a lot of people get stuck at that level, and just the way things are right now, that's not livable. I mean, you got to have a significant other. You got to be in a two income situation for the most part. And so, I mean, I was really transparent with that. And so, like, this was the opportunity, and that's why I left. I mean, I left at a weird time. I left in the middle of basketball season because it was a situation that I thought, like, I can't turn this down if this is something that gets offered to me. So you got to have your whys and your reasons. And for me, it goes beyond like a paycheck. Again, I don't come to work thinking about how much I'm going to get paid at the end of the month. I come to work thinking about helping elevate these guys and helping them make what they make. I mean, we just had two guys get drafted this year and both signed for significantly more than what I make right now. And that's that, but that's what it's about. Like, I want to elevate my athletes. And if I were working in the pro level, I want my guys to go from the minors to the pros. And if it's a pro guy, I want him to make an all-star team. And if he makes an all-star team, I want him to sign for $100 million contract. Like, that's what we do. We're here to elevate our athletes. And so if you're in it for a paycheck, it's probably the wrong spot for you. A sales job's probably better for you.
No, 100%. I agree with you. Helping elevate the athletes and getting them to a point that you want to be at, they want to be at. Because eventually, like you said at the very beginning, like if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? So if you're enjoying showing up every day, why would it be considered a job? But you look at like a lot of your athletes that are coming in nowadays, and you're in baseball, right? And we talk about specialization because I think this is a huge thing nowadays with baseball players, even in football and basketball and soccer from a very young age is sticking to just one sport. How much do you think this is actually helping athletes, or is it actually hindering their growth of being better athletes?
I still think there's something to say for the athletes that up to a certain point play a majority or a variety of sports. I think that there's a benefit in just general athleticism. It goes back to, the fear of training young athletes and having them lift, right? Oh, my 10-year-old son, he shouldn't be lifting weights. We're not trying to turn him into a power lifter at 10 years old. It's just we're just working on general athleticism. Well, as somebody that really struggles to just go and pick up soccer, for example, like, I would have benefited from playing more than 1 year of soccer when I was 6 years old. I would have benefited probably with sticking with wrestling a little bit longer if I hadn't quit after middle school. I think there are layers to just general athleticism that you're going to get from playing different sports. At the same time, I watched a video today of a kid that's 16 years old. He's 6'6", he's 200 pounds, and he throws 98 miles an hour. You don't do that by playing basketball for half the year and playing baseball for a quarter of the year while you play table tennis or swim. So, like, athletes are bigger and better and more advanced than they've ever been. I think that there's not a really clear answer to that, because I think that there are guys that specialize that, and that's one of the reasons why they're really good. But there are also really good, just general athletes that can just go and pick up a ball in any sport and go and just and be able to play and be able to hold their own. So it's not black and white. But I will say that the game of baseball has advanced a lot just based on just looking at velocities and size. Eric Sim's an awesome follow because he always will find these like 14-year-old kids on these like PBR websites that are listed at like 240 pounds and they look like grown men. It's just now happening in baseball, I think. In football, it's been like this. I mean, they used to tell stories about Bo Jackson, and he was a grown ass man. And I remember watching. Ezekiel Elliott as a true freshman at Ohio State, and he looked no different in a Cowboys uniform as he did as a freshman, 18-year-old kid running the football at Ohio State. So, like, I don't think that there's any one given answer, but like, you're going to have outliers, and it just feels like there's tons and tons more of them. And kudos to all those parents with those unbelievable genetics because holy shit, like, I didn't get that. So,
Shout out to the gene pools because even talk about like a guy like Derrick Henry, right? Like freak of an
yes.
athlete. Because I know I played against him in high school, and the same way he was in high school is the same way that he looks in when he went to college, and then when he got to the pros, and he's still doing the same exact things. So I mean, there are the gene pools that are really set up for success, and so I think it's the hardest thing because I'm in the private sector, so you get a lot of athletes that come in and just parents tell you that at 8 years old I've got a pro baseball player, right? And you're like, yeah, for sure. They're gonna get there. Yeah, we'll see. But I think it's just the common knowledge of like, hey, like let's let them actually just grow into their bodies and let's help them become better athletes, and then eventually we'll figure out what they come out to be down the line. How do you measure success though as a coach beyond wins, scholarships, PRs? Like what would be your definition of success?
So in my specific like facet, I guess success to me is when I can get an athlete to build a relationship with them, create buy-in and trust that drives intent throughout their career here, whether it be one semester, hopefully multiple years, that leads them on to something better after their life. Again, had a couple guys get drafted, guy that may go get a chance to go play for the Savannah Bananas, couple guys that are thinking about going and playing indie ball. And then I've got guys that are two guys that either just got engaged or got married. Two guys that one's in finances and is making at least double what I make, and he just graduated. I think for me, it's those relationships where I want those guys to always know that they can hit me up for anything that they need. And I think success for me is having that lifelong relationship. I mean, there are guys that I still talk to from Northern Colorado that happen to be like in the field now, but in different realms and in the sports tech side. There are guys that are playing overseas that I coached 8 years ago, 7 years ago. It's the relationships. Like, this is a people business, and it's not about what you can do for me. It's what can I do for you, and then maintaining that relationship for years and years to come. And I think it's the impact that you have on people. I'd love to say, in addition, it's like, hey, yeah, we use fitness and exercise to help build athletes, right? Like, I want them to have a good knowledge base when they leave here and be able to go, and if it's transfer, play somewhere and be successful or be the best in their weight room, and or just continue to exercise when they go and leave school and use that as whether it's an outlet or just a way to take care of their bodies. So I think success, like in terms of how I measure it, there are a lot of layers to that. That's a really complex question and a complex answer. But it is deeper than just wins. Obviously, winning is the goal, and whatever I can do to help with that, I'm going to help with. But yeah, it's a lifelong thing, and it's a lifelong relationship that I hope that I make and lifelong impact that I make on my athletes. So.
Yeah, it sounds like the layers of it all come down to just the relationship that you have with the athletes and how you've helped them not only just on the field but off the field and help them grow as human beings in this world. Now, before we get out of here, Coach, what's something you'd want us to ask our next guest?
Well, for me, I'm always interested in exit strategy because we just at the beginning of this talked about, how did you figure out that you wanted to do this? How did you get into the field? We also talked about how, at some point in your life and as an athlete, somebody's eventually going to look at you and say, "Hey, you're not good enough to play anymore." Well, at some point, we're not all going to be able to coach forever. And so I'm not old enough to worry about it yet, hopefully, knock on wood. But like, I'm always curious what people's exit strategies are. There's a lot of people that talk about, investing in certain things and, making sure that you're financially able to leave the field if and when you want to. Do you move to the private sector? Do you open up your own business? Do you get out of the field completely? Do you get into sales? I mean, tons of really good strength coaches don't break that 40K barrier, that 40 to 50K barrier, and they end up going into like medical sales and stuff like that. But for the people that are coaches, been coaches for a long time, like what's your exit strategy? Like what's your plan when you're done with this? How are you gonna maintain your way of life and your quality of life and the living the qualities and whatever that you have, and what's your plan after you're done, outside of just retirement and sitting watching college football every weekend. So that one always interests me, and I ask it because I don't know the answer to that myself, because I haven't thought that far ahead, but I always think it's kind of interesting to think about it. Hopefully not too soon.
Yeah, right there with you. Because being at 33, the only thing I think about is watching college football on Saturdays and watching the NFL on Sundays.
Yes,
And
sir.
so I'm there with you. So I don't even know what my exit strategy would be. So that's an interesting question. I love it, Coach. But I want to thank you for coming on today, and thank you for keeping it honest, keeping it real, and chopping it up with us today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Let me know when you post it. Looking forward to sharing the word. Have always I enjoyed Chris Martin's episode too. It seems like he's everywhere now. Got to give him a shout out. He's everywhere right now.
The
So just let
national champ coach, baby, you gotta have me everywhere.
Hey, it sounds like I need to get a ring so I can get invited on some more stuff. So
You and me both, brother. And we're out.